Hey guys, tonight we're stepping back into a world where the rules were unspoken but understood by everyone. We're talking about 1950s suburban America, a place where your lawn spoke volumes about your character, where dinner was served at exactly 6 o'clock, and where the way you arranged your living room furniture could actually affect your social standing. Before we dive in, take a second to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy these quiet trips through time, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what memories this brings up for you. I know someone out there grew up in a house exactly like the ones we're about to explore. Now dim the lights, turn on a fan for that soft white noise, get comfortable under your blanket, really comfortable. Because tonight we're exploring a world where conformity was kindness, where following the rules meant you cared about your neighbours, and where the smallest deviation from normal could spark whispers across backyard fences. Have you ever wondered what it really felt like to wake up on a Tuesday morning in 1955, knowing your entire day was already mapped out by invisible guidelines? What did it mean when someone said your house looked proper? How did families actually decide what was acceptable to talk about and what should stay locked away? Did mothers really enjoy ironing their husbands' shirts every single morning, or were they just following a script everyone else was following too? What happened when someone broke the rules, when they painted their door the wrong colour, or served dinner at the wrong time, or let their children play too loudly on a Sunday? And more importantly, could you have followed every single invisible rule, every unspoken expectation, every social requirement that held suburban life together like invisible thread? Well, take a breath, because it is 1955 now. The lawns are trimmed, the curtains are drawn at the proper angle. Your neighbour is already outside checking to make sure everything looks exactly as it should, and the invisible rules, the ones no one ever wrote down but everyone somehow knows, are waiting for you to follow them. Welcome home. Your lawn is not just grass. It is a statement, a declaration, a reflection of everything your neighbours need to know about who you are as a person. In 1950s suburban America, the condition of your front yard speaks louder than any conversation you might have at the grocery store or any handshake you might offer at church. A well-maintained lawn says you are responsible, stable, respectful of the neighbourhood. A neglected lawn suggests something far more troubling, that perhaps you do not care, that perhaps you're struggling, that perhaps you're the kind of person who disrupts the careful order everyone else is working so hard to maintain. Every Saturday morning you see them, the men of the neighbourhood emerge from their garages carrying manual push mowers, their shirts tucked in despite the heat, their expressions focused and serious. This is not leisure, this is duty. The mower blades are sharp, adjusted to the precise height that keeps grass healthy but not overgrown. You push in straight lines, overlapping slightly to avoid missed patches, creating a pattern of darker and lighter green stripes that proves you took your time, that you did this correctly. The edges matter most, where your lawn meets the sidewalk, where it borders the driveway, where it curves around the flower beds. These are the places people notice first. You kneel with hand clippers or a specialized edging tool, trimming away any blade that dares to cross the boundary between grass and pavement. A clean edge is the signature of a man who pays attention to detail. A ragged edge suggests carelessness that might extend into other areas of life. Weeds are the enemy, visible proof that you have let something slip. Dandelions with their cheerful yellow heads are pulled immediately, roots and all, before they spread their seeds and infect neighbouring lawns. Crabgrass is attacked with special treatments purchased from the hardware store, applied carefully according to the instructions on the bag. You monitor your lawn daily, walking the perimeter each evening after work, scanning for intruders, for brown patches, for anything that might signal decline. Your neighbours are doing the same. You see Mr. Henderson across the street inspecting his grass with the intensity of a detective examining evidence. You see Mr. Walsh next door watering his lawn in the early morning, the spray catching sunlight and creating tiny rainbows above the clover-free expanse. Everyone is watching everyone else, not with hostility, but with a shared understanding that standards must be maintained. When one lawn falters, it affects the whole block. Property values, reputation, the entire invisible structure of suburban order, all of it rests on the collective commitment to keeping these small rectangles of grass absolutely perfect. Children know not to run wild across a freshly mowed lawn. Bicycles stay on the driveway. Dogs are walked on leashes and steered carefully away from the grass, their business conducted elsewhere, preferably in the small strip of land behind the garage where no one has to see it. Your lawn is not a playground. It is not a dumping ground. It is not something casual or unimportant. It is your face to the world. It is your handshake, your introduction, your first and most constant impression. And in 1955, when so much of life is judged by what can be seen from the street, you make absolutely certain that your lawn is saying all the right things. Time in the suburbs runs on a precise invisible schedule, and nowhere is this more evident than at the dinner table. 6 o'clock is not a suggestion. It is not a flexible window or a rough estimate. It is the moment when every family on your block sits down together, the father at the head of the table, the mother bringing out the roast, the children with hands washed and hair combed, everyone present and accounted for. To serve dinner at 5:30 or 6:30 is to suggest disorganization, chaos, a household that cannot keep itself together. And in 1955, that kind of disorder is quietly noted, gently discussed, and carefully remembered. Your mother begins preparing for this moment hours in advance. By 4 o'clock, the kitchen is already warm with the smell of roasting meat, simmering vegetables, baking rolls. She moves through the space with practiced efficiency, checking the oven, stirring pots, setting the table with the everyday dishes that still gleam from careful washing. Each place setting is arranged identically. Fork on the left, knife and spoon on the right, napkin folded into a neat triangle beside the plate. The water glasses are filled precisely 2/3 full, not so much that they might spill, not so little that someone might need a refill before the meal is finished. At 5:45, she calls upstairs. Wash your hands, dinner in 15 minutes. You and your siblings know this is not negotiable. You scrub your hands with soap, dry them thoroughly, check your reflection to make sure your hair is smooth and your shirt is tucked in. By 5:55, everyone is seated. Your father has arrived home, removed his hat and coat, loosened his tie just slightly, and taken his position at the head of the table. Your mother stands in the doorway, apron still on, waiting for the clock to mark the hour. At exactly 6 o'clock, she brings out the main dish: pot roast with carrots and potatoes, baked chicken with green beans, meatloaf with mashed potatoes and gravy. Whatever she has prepared, it arrives at the table steaming, perfectly timed, the result of calculations she's been making since lunchtime. Your father serves himself first, then passes the platter to your mother, who serves the children before taking her own portion last. No one begins eating until your father picks up his fork. Conversation at the table is pleasant but controlled. Your father asks about your day at school. You answer politely, briefly, without drawing too much attention to yourself. Your mother mentions a phone call from your grandmother, a sale at the grocery store, the neighbour's new rose bushes. No one discusses anything unpleasant. No one argues. No one complains about the food, even if the roast is slightly dry or the vegetables have been cooked a bit too long. Complaints suggest ingratitude, and ingratitude has no place at this table. The meal proceeds in courses. The main dish is cleared, replaced by salad, then dessert, a simple cobbler or pudding, something sweet but not excessive. Coffee is poured for your parents. Milk is refilled for the children. By 6:45 the meal is finished and the table is cleared with the same efficiency that prepared it. Your mother and older sister wash the dishes while your father retires to the living room with the newspaper. You and your younger brother wipe down the table and sweep the floor. By 7 o'clock, the kitchen is spotless again, as if dinner never happened, except for the lingering warmth in the air and the faint smell of cooked food that will fade by bedtime. And tomorrow, at exactly 6 o'clock, the entire ritual will repeat itself. Because this is not just dinner. This is proof that your family functions correctly, that order prevails, that time is respected, and that everyone knows their place. You step outside to collect the mail, and before you even open the mailbox, you're aware that someone might be watching. Your hair is curled, your lipstick is fresh, your dress is pressed and belted at the waist. This is not vanity. This is responsibility. Because in the suburbs, a wife's appearance is not just her own concern, it is a direct reflection of her husband's success, stability, and standing in the community. If you look polished, it means he is doing well, providing properly, maintaining order in his home. If you look dishevelled, tired, or unkempt, it raises questions, not about you, but about him. Your morning begins with this understanding. Before your husband leaves for work, before your children wake for breakfast, you're already up, already dressed, already prepared to face the day as a representative of your household. You do not shuffle around in a bathrobe with your hair in curlers. You do not answer the door in yesterday's clothes or with sleep still creasing your cheek. Even at 7 in the morning, when the milkman arrives or a neighbour stops by to borrow an egg, you're presentable, fully presentable. This requires planning, discipline, and a level of constant self-monitoring that becomes second nature. You keep your hair styled in a way that holds its shape throughout the day, pinned and sprayed into submission each morning. Your dresses are chosen not for comfort, but for their ability to maintain a crisp silhouette even after hours of cooking, cleaning, and chasing children. Your shoes are polished. Your stockings have no runs. Your jewellery is modest but present. A strand of pearls or a simple brooch that suggests refinement without ostentation. Makeup is non-negotiable. Even if you're only running to the corner store for a loaf of bread, you apply lipstick, powder, a touch of rouge to bring colour to your cheeks. To appear in public without makeup is to suggest you have given up, that you no longer care about maintaining standards, that perhaps things at home are not as stable as they should be. And because your appearance is tied directly to your husband's reputation, letting yourself go means letting him down. Your neighbours notice everything. Mrs. Patterson across the street sees you through her kitchen window as you water the flowers. Mrs. Dixon next door waves from her porch as you carry in the groceries. They observe the state of your hair, the fit of your dress, the presence or absence of a smile on your face. And they draw conclusions. If you look tired, they wonder if your husband is working you too hard or if he's unable to afford help. If you look too glamorous, too polished, they wonder if you are trying to compensate for problems in the marriage. The goal is to land precisely in the middle, well-maintained but not excessive, attractive but not threatening, pleasant but not too cheerful. When your husband comes home from work, you have already refreshed yourself. You've reapplied your lipstick, smoothed your hair, removed your apron, and replaced it with a calm, welcoming smile. You greet him at the door looking as though the day has been effortless, even if you have spent the last 8 hours scrubbing floors, ironing shirts, preparing meals, and managing the children's endless demands. He should never see you frazzled. He should never see you strained. Because if he does, it suggests that you cannot handle your responsibilities, that perhaps he married someone who is not quite competent enough for the role of wife and mother. This is the unspoken contract. He provides. You maintain. And part of what you maintain is yourself, your appearance, your composure, your ability to reflect well on him in every moment, in every interaction, in every glance a neighbour casts your way. The children in your neighbourhood move through the world like careful shadows, present but not intrusive, visible but not loud. This is the rule, spoken softly by every mother, reinforced quietly by every father, understood completely by every child old enough to walk. You may play outside, but not too wildly. You may speak, but not too loudly. You may exist, but only in ways that do not disrupt the adults around you. To raise your voice at the dinner table, to interrupt conversation, to demand attention when it has not been offered, these are infractions that will be corrected, swiftly, calmly, and without negotiation. From the earliest age, children in 1955 are trained in the art of being simultaneously present and invisible. You learn to enter a room quietly, to stand near the doorway until you are acknowledged, to wait patiently for a pause in adult conversation before speaking. You learn that your needs, while important, are not urgent unless there is blood or fire involved. You learn that adults are having important discussions about important things, and that your desire to share a story about a frog you found or a game you played is not, in fact, as pressing as you believe it to be. At the dinner table, this rule is most strictly enforced. You sit with your back straight, your hands in your lap when not eating, your voice low and your comments brief. Your father may ask you a direct question, and you answer it fully but concisely. You do not offer additional information unless prompted. You do not interrupt your parents when they are speaking to each other. You do not argue with your siblings, no matter how much your brother's foot is nudging yours under the table. If you need something, you ask politely, quietly, and you accept whatever answer you're given without complaint or negotiation. When guests visit, the expectations intensify. You're brought into the living room, introduced politely, and then expected to demonstrate perfect manners for exactly as long as the adults wish to observe you. You shake hands firmly. You make eye contact. You say pleased to meet you in your clearest voice. And then, unless you are specifically invited to stay, you excuse yourself and retreat to your room or the backyard, understanding that adult time is sacred and that children who linger too long become nuisances. Even your play is regulated. You may run and shout in the backyard, but not after 6 o'clock when fathers are home and trying to relax. You may ride your bicycle on the sidewalk, but you do not ring your bell repeatedly or race past neighbours who are standing in their yards. You may organise games with the other children on the block, but you do so quietly, without drawing attention, without creating the kind of chaos that makes adults step outside and ask what all the commotion is about. This is not cruelty. This is training. You are being taught that the world does not revolve around you, that other people's comfort and peace matter, that your role as a child is to grow, learn, and develop into a respectful adult without causing unnecessary disruption along the way. Your parents genuinely believe this discipline is a gift, that by teaching you to control your impulses, your volume, your constant need for attention, they are preparing you for a life where you will be welcomed in polite society, where you will know how to behave, where you will not embarrass yourself or your family. And so you learn. You learn to read the room, to sense when your presence is welcome and when it is not. You learn to entertain yourself quietly, to find joy in solitary activities, to understand that love and attention are given on a schedule, not on demand. You learn that being seen is a privilege, but being heard is something you must earn. Your front door is the threshold between private life and public judgment, and it must be treated accordingly. In 1955, the colour of your door, the condition of your doormat, the presence or absence of a seasonal wreath, all of these things communicate volumes about the household within. The safest choice is a door painted in a traditional colour, something dignified, restrained, respectable. White is clean, black is elegant, red is acceptable only in certain neighbourhoods, and only if it is a deep, muted red that suggests confidence without aggression. Bright colours are for people who do not understand the rules. Peeling paint is for people who have given up. The door is washed regularly, wiped down with a damp cloth to remove fingerprints, dust, and the residue of weather. The brass hardware, the doorknob, the mail slot, the knocker, is polished until it gleams. Your mother keeps a small tin of metal polish in the cleaning cupboard, specifically for this purpose, and she applies it with a soft cloth, rubbing in small circles until the brass shines like new. This is not excessive. This is simply what is expected. The doormat is chosen carefully. It should be functional, capable of scraping mud and dirt from shoes, but also attractive, a woven pattern or a simple message like welcome or home. It should be shaken out weekly and replaced when it begins to look worn. A threadbare doormat suggests a household that cannot keep up with basic maintenance, and that suggestion, however small, contributes to the overall impression visitors take away with them. Seasonal decorations are permitted, even encouraged, but only within strict boundaries. A wreath at Christmas made of fresh evergreen boughs with a tasteful red, boar. A small arrangement of autumn leaves and gourds in October. Perhaps a simple flag on patriotic holidays, hung straight and taken down promptly when the holiday passes. But never anything excessive, never anything garish, never anything that suggests you are trying too hard, or worse, that you do not know when to stop. The area around the front door must also be immaculate. The porch is swept daily. Spiderwebs are removed from the corners. Flower pots, if present, contain healthy, blooming plants, not wilted stems or dried leaves. The porch light is kept clean, its glass globe free of dead insects, its bulb replaced immediately when it burns out. To leave a burnt-out porch light for days or weeks is to announce to the neighbourhood that you're either neglectful or indifferent, and neither quality is admired. When guests approach your home, this is what they see first. Before they meet you, before they enter your living room, before they taste your cooking or admire your furniture, they stand at your front door and form their first impression, and that impression is shaped entirely by what you have chosen to present. The colour, the cleanliness, the small decorative touches that signal whether you understand the rules or whether you're fumbling in the dark, hoping no one notices. Your mother checks the front door every morning, a quick inspection as she retrieves the newspaper. She scans for scuff marks, for leaves blown onto the porch overnight, for anything that might suggest disorder. She adjusts the wreath if it has shifted slightly. She straightens the doormat. She ensures that the brass numbers marking your address are still securely fastened and easy to read from the street. This is the standard. This is what every household on your block maintains, not because they enjoy the tedium of constant upkeep, but because they understand that in the suburbs, your front door is not a private entrance. It is a public statement, a declaration of who you are and whether you belong. Sunday in the suburbs is a day with its own rhythm, its own rules, its own quiet expectations. The morning begins with church, the entire family dressed in their finest, walking together down the sidewalk as neighbours wave from their own driveways. This is not optional. To skip church is to invite questions, concern, suspicion. After services, you return home for a proper Sunday dinner, something traditional and substantial. Pot roast or fried chicken served on the good dishes. The afternoon is for rest, not labour. Mowing the lawn on Sunday is unthinkable. Hanging laundry is improper. Even loud conversation feels slightly out of place. The morning begins earlier than usual. Your mother is already in the kitchen by 7, preparing a light breakfast that will not weigh heavily before services. Toast with butter and jam, fresh fruit, coffee for your parents, milk for you and your siblings. The meal is eaten quickly, efficiently, because there is much to do before. You leave the house at 9:30. You dress in your Sunday clothes. the ones reserved exclusively for church and special occasions. For boys, this means pressed slacks, a clean white shirt, a tie tied by your father's hands until you're old enough to learn the knot yourself, and shoes polished to a reflective shine. For girls, it means a dress with a full skirt, white gloves, shiny Mary Janes, and a hat or ribbon in your hair. Your mother inspects each child before you leave, adjusting collars, smoothing fabric, ensuring that nothing is wrinkled, crooked, or out of place. The walk to church is quiet, reverent. You move as a unit, your father leading, your mother beside him, children following in age order. You pass other families doing the same, and everyone exchanges polite nods, brief smiles, murmured good mornings. The entire neighbourhood is moving in the same direction, drawn toward the white steeple visible above the trees, the bell ringing softly to call everyone home. Inside, the church smells of wood polish, hymnal pages, and the faint perfume of the women seated in the pews. You sit in the same spot every week, your family's unofficial but universally recognised place. The service proceeds in familiar rhythms. Hymns are sung from memory. Prayers are recited in unison. The sermon is delivered with gentle authority, reminding everyone of their duties, their blessings, their obligation to live righteously. You sit still, hands folded, listening, or at least appearing to listen, because fidgeting in church is unacceptable. After the service, you linger briefly on the steps, greeting the pastor, exchanging pleasantries with other families. Your mother compliments Mrs. Henderson on her hat. Your father discusses the weather with Mr. Walsh. You stand quietly beside your siblings, waiting for the signal that it is time to go home. Sunday dinner is the most elaborate meal of the week. Your mother has prepared it in stages. Some dishes made the day before, others started early this morning before church. The table is set with the good china, the cloth napkins, the silver candlesticks that only appear on Sundays and holidays. The meal is formal, reverent, a celebration of family and faith and the blessings of the week. After dinner, the afternoon stretches out in stillness. Your father naps in his armchair, the newspaper spread across his chest. Your mother washes the good dishes by hand, drying each one carefully before returning it to the cabinet. You and your siblings are permitted to play quietly, but only indoors or in the backyard, and only games that do not create noise or chaos. The neighbourhood is silent. No lawnmowers, no hammering, no cars being washed. Sunday is a day of rest, and rest is taken seriously. Your living room is not designed for comfort. It is designed for display. The furniture is arranged with precision, the sofa facing the picture window, the coffee table centred exactly, the lamps positioned to cast flattering light on everything worth noticing. The magazines on the coffee table are current, aspirational, and fanned at an attractive angle. The throw pillows are fluffed daily. The drapes are drawn to the proper width, not too open, revealing too much of your private life, but not too closed, suggesting secrecy or unfriendliness. This room is where you receive guests, where you prove to visitors that your household operates according to the same standards everyone else is quietly maintaining. You're not permitted to sit on the sofa in your play clothes. You do not eat in this room. You do not leave your school books on the coffee table or your toys scattered across the floor. The living room exists in a state of permanent readiness, always prepared for the possibility that someone might knock on the door unannounced, someone whose opinion matters, someone who will walk into this space and form immediate judgments about your family's character, taste, and financial standing. The sofa is upholstered in a neutral, durable fabric, something that suggests quality without being ostentatious. The cushions are firm, not yet worn down by use, because they're not used frequently. This is not the room where your family gathers in the evenings. That happens in the den or the kitchen. The living room is for show, for guests, for the moments when your private life must be presented in its most polished form. The coffee table holds exactly 3 items: a stack of magazines, Life or Look or Saturday Evening Post, their covers facing up, their pages free of dog ears or coffee rings, a decorative bowl, perhaps filled with smooth stones or wrapped candies that no one ever eats, and an ashtray, clean and empty, placed there not because anyone smokes in the living room, but because guests might, and it would be rude not to offer them a place to dispose of their ashes. The drapes are heavy, lined, and expensive. They frame the picture window like curtains on a stage, and in many ways, that is exactly what they are. During the day, they're open just enough to allow natural light to filter in, illuminating the room without exposing too much of the interior to passers-by. At night, they're drawn closed, signalling that the family is home, settled, private. To leave them open after dark would be improper, almost exhibitionist, inviting neighbours to peer into your life uninvited. The lamps are strategically placed, one on each end table flanking the sofa, casting warm pools of light that make the room feel inviting without being too bright. Their shades are spotless, dusted regularly, their bases polished brass or ceramic painted with delicate designs. The light bulbs are always the correct wattage, never too dim, never too harsh. Lighting, your mother understands, is as important as cleanliness in creating the right atmosphere. On the walls hang carefully chosen art, nothing controversial, nothing abstract or difficult to understand, pastoral scenes perhaps, or still lifes of fruit and flowers, landscapes that suggest peace and stability. These are framed in simple traditional frames, nothing ornate or flashy. The goal is to create an environment that feels cultured but not pretentious, tasteful but not intimidating. Every surface in this room is clean. The end tables are polished weekly, free of dust, water rings, or any evidence of use. The floor, whether hardwood or carpet, is vacuumed daily, kept pristine. Even the fireplace, if you have one, is cleaned regularly, its mantle dusted, its hearth swept, a decorative screen positioned in front of it during the warmer months when fires are not needed. When guests do arrive, you usher them into this space with quiet pride. They sit on the firm sofa, they admire the arrangement of the room, and they understand immediately that this is a household that respects order, tradition, and the unspoken rules that govern suburban life. And that understanding, that silent acknowledgement, is exactly what the living room is designed to achieve. In 1955, a mother's place is clear, absolute, and unquestioned. She belongs at home, caring for her children, maintaining the household, ensuring that everything runs smoothly so her husband can focus on his work without distraction. To suggest that a mother might want to work outside the home, that she might have ambitions or interests beyond her family, is to suggest something unsettling, that perhaps her husband is not providing adequately, or that perhaps she is selfish, prioritizing her own desires over the needs of her children. Mothers who work are pitied or judged, rarely admired. Your mother wakes before the rest of the family. She moves quietly through the house, starting the coffee, preparing breakfast, ensuring that everyone's day begins smoothly. She is the engine that powers the household, invisible but essential, her labour so constant and thorough that it often goes unnoticed until anything is out of place. When your father's shirt is pressed and waiting on the bed, when your lunch is packed and sitting on the counter, when the kitchen is warm and smells of toast and bacon, you do not think about the hour of work that made these things appear. You simply accept them as the natural order. She does not have hobbies in the traditional sense. She has duties. The laundry must be washed, dried, folded, and put away. The floors must be swept and mopped. The bathrooms must be scrubbed until they shine. The grocery shopping must be done. Meals planned a week in advance, budgets calculated to stretch your father's paycheck across every necessary expense. She does these things without complaint, without praise, without the expectation that anyone will notice unless something is forgotten. When neighbours gather for coffee in the late morning, after the children have gone to school and the husbands have left for work, they do not discuss careers or ambitions. They discuss recipes, child-rearing techniques, the best way to remove a stain from linen. They share tips on stretching a budget, managing a household, keeping a husband content. These conversations are not trivial. They are the substance of their lives, the shared knowledge that binds them together in their common role. If a mother works outside the home, it is because she must, because her husband has died or left, because there is no other income, because poverty has forced her hand. In those cases, she is viewed with sympathy, sometimes with quiet assistance from church groups or neighbours who bring casseroles and offer to watch her children. But she is also marked as different, as someone whose life has deviated from the proper path through no fault of her own, but with consequences that cannot be ignored. A working mother cannot attend the midday school programs. She cannot volunteer for the PTA bake sale or chaperone the field trip. She cannot be home when her children arrive from school waiting, with milk and cookies and a listening ear. And because she cannot do these things, her children are noticed, whispered about, offered extra attention by teachers and neighbours who understand that something is missing from their lives. The message is clear and constant. A mother's work is at home. Her success is measured not in paychecks or promotions, but in the cleanliness of her floors, the health of her children, the contentment of her husband. She's the heart of the family, the unseen force that keeps everything running. And to step outside that role, even for valid reasons, is to risk judgment, pity, and the quiet disapproval of a community that has very specific ideas about what a woman should be. Saturday morning in the suburbs has a soundtrack. The hiss of garden hoses, the slap of wet sponges against chrome, the low hum of men's voices discussing engines and baseball scores. Washing the car is not just maintenance. It is a public demonstration of care, pride, responsibility. A clean car suggests a man who takes his role seriously, who maintains what he owns, who understands that appearances matter. A dirty car, splattered with mud or streaked with dust, suggests negligence, carelessness, a man who perhaps cannot be trusted to keep other parts of his life in order either. Your father begins early, before the sun climbs too high and makes the work unbearable. He pulls the car out of the garage and parks it in the driveway where the neighbours can see, where the ritual can be performed properly. He wears old clothes for this, a worn shirt, trousers that can get wet, shoes he does not mind soaking. He fills a bucket with warm soapy water, uncoils the garden hose, and begins. First comes the rinse, a thorough soaking that loosens the dirt, the dust, the grime accumulated over a week of driving to work, to the grocery store, to church. The water streams across the hood, cascades down the windshield, pools briefly on the roof before sliding off. He works, methodically, section by section, ensuring that every surface is wet, prepared for the scrubbing to come. Then the sponge. Large, soft, heavy with soap, it moves in slow circles across the paint, lifting away the film of the week. He scrubs gently but thoroughly, paying attention to the places where dirt collects, around the door handles, along the trim, in the crevices where the bumper meets the body. The soap foams white against the dark paint, and the motion is almost meditative, repetitive, soothing. This is not rushed. This is done right. The wheels receive special attention. He crouches down, scrubbing the hubcaps until they gleam, cleaning the white wall tyres with a stiff brush designed specifically for this purpose. White walls must stay white. Anything less suggests a lack of standards, a willingness to accept imperfection. He works the brush in firm strokes, watching the dirt rinse away, revealing the bright white rubber beneath. After the scrubbing comes the rinse again, this time to wash away the soap, the loosened dirt, the evidence of labour. The water runs clear now, streaming across the clean surfaces, and the car begins to shine in the morning light. But the work is not finished. Not yet. He dries the car with soft towels, moving carefully to avoid scratching the paint, wiping away every drop of water before it can leave spots. The windows receive extra care, cleaned inside and out with glass cleaner and newspaper, rubbed until they are streak-free and invisible. The chrome bumpers are polished with a special cloth, buffed until they reflect the sky. Inside the car, he vacuums the floors, wipes down the dashboard, cleans the steering wheel. He empties the ashtray, shakes out the floor mats, ensures that the interior is as spotless as the exterior. A clean car is a complete car, maintained inside and out, cared for properly. By late morning, the car is returned to the garage, gleaming, perfect, ready for another week, and your father, satisfied, with his work, coils the hose, empties the bucket, and stands back to admire what he has accomplished. Around the neighbourhood, other men are doing the same. Driveways are wet, cars sparkle. The unspoken competition continues, each man ensuring that his vehicle, his pride, his symbol of success, reflects well on him and his family. You wave to your neighbour as she waters her roses. She waves back. You comment on the weather. She agrees it has been lovely. You mention that her garden looks beautiful. She thanks you and compliments your new porch light. This exchange lasts less than 2 minutes and reveals absolutely nothing about either of your inner lives. This is correct. This is proper. Because in the suburbs, neighbours are friendly but not familiar. You share a fence, not your feelings. To burden someone with your personal struggles, your marital concerns, your private worries, is to cross a line that everyone understands but no one ever discusses. The boundaries are maintained with careful precision. You know your neighbours' names, the names of their children, what kind of car they drive, where they attend church. You know when they leave for work in the morning and when they return in the evening. You notice when they have guests, when they go on vacation, when something in their routine changes. But you do not know what they argue about behind closed doors. You do not know if they are happy in their marriage. You do not know if they are struggling financially or if their children are causing them worry. And they do not know these things about you either. Conversations happen across property lines, over hedges, on sidewalks during evening walks. They are pleasant, light, carefully neutral. The weather is a favoured topic, safe and universally relevant. Gardens provide endless opportunities for polite exchange, compliments on blooms, advice on fertilizers, commiseration over stubborn weeds. Children's achievements are mentioned but not dwelled upon, a casual reference to a good report card or a successful recital, nothing that could be interpreted as boasting. When something more serious occurs, an illness, a death, a family crisis, the response is structured and predictable. A casserole is delivered to the door with a brief sympathetic message. A card is mailed. Offers of help are extended in vague, general terms. If you need anything, please do not hesitate to ask. But the expectation is that you will not ask. The expectation is that you will handle your troubles privately, quietly, with dignity, and that you will emerge on the other side with your composure intact and your gratitude expressed. To actually confide in a neighbour, to share the details of your struggles, would be to violate the unspoken contract. It would make them uncomfortable, place them in the awkward position of knowing too much, of being unable to help and unable to forget what they have been told. It would shift the relationship from friendly coexistence to something more complicated, something that requires emotional labour neither party signed up for. So instead, you keep things light, You smile, you wave, you comment on the lovely weather and the beautiful roses, and when you return to your own home, you close the door on whatever troubles you're carrying, knowing that your neighbour is doing exactly the same. This is how suburban life functions, not through deep connection, but through respectful distance, not through intimacy, but through carefully maintained pleasantness. And in 1955, that is not seen as cold or isolating. It is seen as the foundation of a peaceful, orderly community where everyone knows their place and everyone respects the invisible walls that keep chaos at bay. As the sun begins its descent and the neighbourhood settles into the soft glow of early evening, a ritual begins in nearly every home on your block. It is cocktail hour, that sacred window between the end of the workday and the beginning of dinner when adults are permitted, even encouraged, to unwind with a carefully measured drink. The father arrives home, loosens his tie, and mixes something simple, a gin and tonic, a whiskey on the rocks, a martini if the day has been particularly trying. The mother joins him, her own drink lighter, more decorative, something served in a delicate glass that matches the careful polish of everything else in her life. This is not indulgence, this is tradition. A respectable tradition that marks the transition from work to home, from responsibility to rest, from the demands of the day to the comfort of evening. Your father stands at the small bar cart in the corner of the living room, a piece of furniture as essential as the sofa or the coffee table. The cart holds an array of bottles, their labels elegant and familiar, alongside crystal glasses that catch the fading light through the window. He pours with practiced ease, measuring by instinct, adding ice with a satisfying clink. The ritual is precise but not fussy. He is not a bartender crafting something elaborate. He is a man making himself a drink after a long day, and there is dignity in the simplicity of it. Your mother accepts her glass with a soft thank you, and they settle into their respective chairs, the same chairs they occupy every evening, the arrangement as fixed as the dinner hour itself. The conversation during cocktail hour is gentle, unhurried. Your father talks about his day in vague, general terms. A meeting that ran long, a deadline that is looming, a colleague who said something mildly amusing. Your mother listens, nods, offers brief observations. She does not burden him with the details of her own day, the tantrum your younger brother threw over lunch, the plumber who arrived 2 hours late, the grocery bill that came in higher than expected. Those details are hers to manage, hers to absorb, and cocktail hour is not the time to transfer them onto his shoulders. You and your siblings know to keep your distance during this time. You play quietly in your rooms or in the backyard. You do not interrupt unless it is urgent. This is adult time, a small pocket of peace they are entitled to, and children who intrude are gently but firmly redirected. Not now, sweetheart. Mommy and Daddy are talking. The message is clear. This moment belongs to them. The drinks are consumed slowly, deliberately. This is not about getting drunk. This is about marking the moment, creating a boundary between the demands of the day and the responsibilities of the evening ahead. The alcohol softens the edges just enough, loosens the tension in shoulders that have been held tight since morning, brings a flush of warmth to faces that have been polite and composed for too many hours in a row. In some homes, neighbours drop by during cocktail hour, invited casually earlier in the week or simply arriving unannounced because the door is always open at this time of day. The men stand together near the bar cart, refilling glasses, discussing sports or work or the state of the world in broad, uncomplicated terms. The women perch on the sofa, their drinks balanced delicately, their conversation light and pleasant. Everyone laughs easily, the sound floating through the open windows and into the warm evening air. By 6 o'clock, cocktail hour ends as naturally as it began. The glasses are rinsed and set aside. Dinner is served. The evening routine continues. But for that brief window, the adults of the household were allowed to be something other than parents, providers, caretakers. They were allowed to simply be two people, sitting together, sipping their drinks, and pretending, just for a moment, that life is easy. Gratitude in 1955 is not expressed casually or verbally. It is written down, mailed promptly, and composed with care. If someone invites you to dinner, you send a thank you note within 3 days. If someone gives you a gift, you acknowledge it in writing before the week is out. If someone shows you kindness, no matter how small, you put pen to paper and express your appreciation in complete sentences. To skip this step is to reveal poor upbringing, a lack of manners, a disregard for the social fabric that holds the community together. Your mother keeps boxes of blank note cards in her desk drawer specifically for this purpose, along with a fountain pen and stamps she replenishes regularly. The cards themselves are simple but elegant, cream-coloured paper with a subtle border, nothing flashy or childish. Your mother's handwriting is neat, slightly slanted, the product of years of practice and an education that emphasized penmanship as a mark of character. She sits at the small secretary desk in the hallway, the one with the fold-down surface and the tiny drawers filled with stationery supplies, and she composes each note with the same care she brings to every other aspect of her life. The language is formal but warm. Dear Mrs. Henderson, thank you so much for the lovely dinner party on Saturday evening. The roast was absolutely delicious, and we so enjoyed the opportunity to spend time with you and your husband. Your hospitality is always so gracious. She signs it with her full name, never just a first initial, never a casual nickname. Sincerely, Margaret Thompson. The formality is intentional. It signals respect, seriousness, and understanding that even a small kindness deserves proper acknowledgement. When you receive a gift, you're expected to write your own thank you note, even as a child. Your mother provides you with a card simpler than hers, perhaps with a small illustration on the front, and she sits beside you at the kitchen table, guiding you through the process. You write slowly, carefully, forming each letter with concentration. Dear Aunt Ruth, thank you for the birthday present. I really like the book. It is very interesting. Thank you again. Love, and then your name. Your mother reviews it, checking for spelling, errors, ensuring that your handwriting is legible. Once it passes her inspection, she folds it into the envelope, addresses it in her own hand, and places it in the outgoing mail. These notes are not read once and discarded. They are kept, filed away in drawers, brought out occasionally to be reread and appreciated. Your mother saves the notes she receives in a small wooden box, a collection of kindness preserved in ink. When she's feeling low or uncertain, she sometimes takes them out and reads through them, reminding herself that her efforts are noticed, that the care she puts into her life and her relationships matters to someone. To fail to send a thank you note is a social error that will be remembered. Mrs. Dixon hosted a baby shower last month and invited 12 women. 11 sent thank you notes within the week. 1 did not. That omission is noted, discussed quietly over coffee, filed away in the collective memory of the neighbourhood. The next time invitations are extended, that name might be reconsidered. Not out of spite, but out of a simple understanding that some people appreciate the effort and others do not, and life is too short to extend kindness where it is not acknowledged. The act of writing these notes is time-consuming. Your mother spends at least an hour each week at her desk, composing, addressing, stamping. But she does not view it as a burden. She views it as an essential part of maintaining her place in the community, of ensuring that her family is seen as polite, grateful, properly raised. In a world where so much is judged by appearances and gestures, A thank you note is one of the simplest and most powerful tools available. It costs almost nothing. It takes only a few minutes, and it says everything that needs to be said about who you are and how you were taught to move through the world. Your mother's kitchen is not just a room where food is prepared. It is a testament to her competence, her discipline, her ability to maintain order in the face of daily chaos. The counters are wiped clean after every meal. The dishes are washed, dried, and put away immediately, never left to sit overnight in the sink. The floor is swept every evening and mopped twice a week. The refrigerator is organised with military precision, leftovers labelled and dated, milk bottles lined up in neat rows. Even the dish towels are folded and hung at exact angles. To walk into this kitchen is to understand that someone here takes their role seriously, that nothing is left to chance, that care and attention are woven into every single surface. The stove is scrubbed after each use, the burners wiped down, the drip pans cleaned of any spills or splatters. Your mother cannot go to bed knowing there is grease on the stovetop. It would keep her awake, that knowledge, that small failure of maintenance gnawing at her until she rises and corrects it. The oven is cleaned weekly, a laborious task involving harsh chemicals and determined scrubbing, but necessary. A dirty oven suggests a cook who does not care about her tools, and that suggestion is unacceptable. The sink gleams. It is scrubbed with powdered cleanser until the porcelain shines white, until no trace of food or soap scum remains. The faucet is polished, the handles wiped dry after each use so that water spots do not form. Even the drain is kept clear, a strainer catching every scrap of food before it can slip down and cause a clog. Your mother has a system for everything, and the sink is no exception. The cabinets are organised with an exactness that borders on obsessive. Plates stacked by size, glasses arranged from tallest to shortest, canned goods lined up with labels facing forward. She knows exactly where everything is, exactly how many of each item she has, exactly when something needs to be replaced. This is not just tidiness. This is control, a way of imposing order on a life that often feels chaotic and overwhelming. In her kitchen, at least, everything has a place and everything is in it. The floor receives her constant attention. It is swept after breakfast, after lunch, after dinner, the broom moving in efficient strokes across the linoleum, collecting crumbs, dust, anything that has dared to settle since the last sweeping. Twice a week she fills a bucket with hot soapy water and mops, working backward from the far corner toward the door so that she never steps on the wet surface. She lets it air dry, the windows open to speed the process, and she does not allow anyone to walk across it until it is completely dry. The dish towels and dishcloths are washed daily, hung on a line in the backyard to dry in the sun. They are never left damp, never allowed to develop that sour smell that indicates mildew. Clean towels are folded and stacked in a drawer, rotated so that they wear evenly, replaced the moment they begin to look thin or stained. Even these small details matter. Even these small details are part of the larger picture of competence she is constantly painting. When guests enter her kitchen, even briefly, even just passing through on their way to the backyard, they see a space that is immaculate, functional, and cared for. They see counters free of clutter, a table set perfectly, a room that smells faintly of lemon cleaner and fresh coffee. They see a woman who has her life together, who runs her household with efficiency and grace, and that perception, however exhausting it is to maintain, is worth every moment she spends scrubbing, wiping, organising and perfecting. Decisions in your household do not arrive through discussion or debate. They arrive through a clear, unquestioned hierarchy. Your father is the head of the household, and his word is final. He decides when the family will take a vacation, what kind of car to purchase, whether the roof needs repairing, how the money should be spent. Your mother may offer gentle suggestions, but ultimately his judgment prevails. This is not cruelty or control. This is simply the order of things, the structure that everyone recognizes and respects. To question your father's authority, especially in front of others, is unthinkable. To undermine his decisions is to destabilize the entire foundation of the family. When a decision needs to be made, the process is predictable. Your mother brings the matter to your father's attention, framing it carefully, presenting the options without pushing too hard toward her preferred outcome. The washing machine is making a strange noise, she might say. I spoke with the repairman, and he thinks it might need a new motor. Or perhaps it would be more economical to replace it entirely. She lays out the facts, the costs, the considerations, and then she waits. Your father considers. He asks questions. He weighs the options against the family budget, against other upcoming expenses, against his own sense of what is necessary and what can wait. He does not make the decision immediately, not always. Sometimes he needs a day or two to think it over, to feel confident in his choice. And during that time, your mother does not press him. She trusts that he will decide and that his decision will be sound. When he announces his conclusion, it is delivered with quiet authority. We will have the motor repaired, he says. That should give us another few years. Or, we will replace the washing machine. I have seen a good model at fair price. Your mother accepts this with a simple nod, a thank you that acknowledges both his decision and his role as the one who makes such decisions. There is no argument, no second guessing, no suggestion that perhaps she would have chosen differently. This hierarchy extends beyond financial matters. Your father decides what time the family will leave for church, what route to take on a Sunday drive, whether the children may attend a particular event or visit a particular friend. He determines the rules of the household, the expectations for behavior, the consequences when those expectations are not met. Your mother enforces these rules in his absence, but the authority behind them is his. When she says, "Your father would not approve," the conversation ends. His approval or disapproval is the ultimate measure. Even in moments of disagreement, your mother does not challenge him directly. If she feels strongly about something, she waits until they are alone, until the children are in bed and the house is quiet, and then she speaks to him privately, softly, presenting her perspective as a question rather than a demand. Do you think we might consider? Have you thought about? She frames her concerns in a way that allows him to maintain his authority, to be the one who ultimately decides, even if he is deciding to agree with her. This dynamic is not unique to your family. It is the standard across the neighborhood, across the entire suburban landscape of 1955. Fathers lead, mothers support, children obey. The structure is clear, the roles are defined, and everyone understands that stability depends on maintaining this order. To disrupt it, to suggest that perhaps decisions should be made jointly, or that a mother's opinion should carry equal weight, is to invite chaos, confusion, and the kind of marital tension that leads to whispered conversations at church and sympathetic casseroles delivered to the door. In this world, Father does know best. Not because he is infallible, not because his judgment is always perfect, but because someone must lead, someone must make the final call, and the culture has decided that someone is him. And so long as he provides, protects, and maintains the household, his authority remains unquestioned, respected, and absolute. Open the refrigerator door in any home on your block, and you will immediately understand something essential about the family who lives there. Is it organized or chaotic? Are the shelves clean or sticky? Is there fresh milk and butter neatly wrapped, leftovers, crisp vegetables in the crisper drawer? Or is it cluttered, half empty, smelling faintly of something forgotten in the back? In 1955, the state of your refrigerator is not a private matter. Friends drop by unannounced. Neighbours borrow eggs. And the moment the door swings open, judgments are formed, silent, swift, and lasting. Your mother treats the interior of the refrigerator with the same attention she brings to the rest of the kitchen. Every item has its place. Milk bottles stand on the top shelf, lined up in order of freshness, the oldest in front so it will be used first. Butter sits in its designated compartment in the door, wrapped neatly, replaced before it runs out. Eggs rest in their cardboard carton, never loose, never cracked, each one a perfect oval promise of breakfast or baking. Leftovers are stored in matching glass containers, each one covered with a fitted lid or a square of wax paper secured with a rubber band. Your mother labels them, with masking tape and a pencil, writing the contents and the date in her careful script. Pot roast Tuesday, green beans Wednesday. Nothing is allowed to languish unidentified. Nothing is permitted to spoil. She checks the refrigerator daily, removing anything that has passed its prime, wiping down shelves if a spill has occurred, ensuring that the interior remains as clean and organised as the day it was delivered. The crisper drawers hold vegetables, washed and dried before being stored, so that no dirt or moisture mars the cleanliness of the space. Lettuce, carrots, celery, each item kept separate, each item fresh enough to be served that evening or the next day. Wilted vegetables discarded immediately. There is no room for waste, but there is also no tolerance for serving anything less than perfect to her family. The door shelves hold condiments, bottles wiped clean of drips, caps secured tightly, ketchup, mustard, mayonnaise, each one standing at attention like small glass, soldiers. She rotates them as she does the pantry goods, bringing the older bottles to the front, placing new purchases in the back. This rotation ensures nothing expires, nothing is wasted, nothing sits untouched until it becomes a science experiment requiring hazmat protocols to remove. When a neighbour stops by and asks to borrow an egg or a cup of milk, your mother opens the refrigerator door without hesitation. She knows exactly what they will see. Cleanliness, order, abundance without excess. The interior of that refrigerator is a reflection of her capabilities as a homemaker, and she has made certain it reflects well. The neighbour thanks her, retrieves what they need, and closes the door with a mental note filed away. That woman knows how to run a household. But the opposite is also true. If a neighbour opens a refrigerator and sees chaos, sees spills left to harden on the shelves, sees mysterious containers with no labels, sees milk bottles with dried drips running down the sides, they draw immediate conclusions. That woman is overwhelmed. That woman is struggling. That family might need help. Or worse, that family might not care about standards the rest of the neighbourhood is working so hard to uphold. The refrigerator, more than almost any other part of the home, is a window into the truth of daily life. You can stage a living room, arrange a coffee table, fluff-throw pillows before guests arrive. But the refrigerator is used constantly, opened multiple times a day, and maintaining it requires ongoing vigilance, not just a quick tidy before company comes. It reveals whether a woman is keeping up or falling behind, whether she has systems in place, or is simply reacting to each crisis as it comes. And in a world where so much depends on perception, where your reputation is built on 1,000 tiny observations made by neighbours who are always watching, the inside of your refrigerator is not just about food storage. It is about proving every single day that you're capable, organised, and worthy of the role you've been given. From the moment children are old enough to understand instructions, they are taught that their roles are different, complementary but distinct, and absolutely not interchangeable. Boys are encouraged to be strong, independent, adventurous. They are given toy trucks, baseball gloves, cap guns. They are taught to shake hands firmly, to look people in the eye, to never cry in public. Girls, meanwhile, are guided toward gentleness, neatness, care. They are given dolls, play kitchens, toy irons. They are taught to sit with their legs crossed, to speak softly, to help their mothers without being asked. These are not suggestions. These are preparations for the lives they will lead as adults. Your brother learns early that boys do not cry. When he falls off his bicycle and scrapes his knee, your father crouches beside him and says, "You are all right. Be brave." Your brother swallows his tears, nods, stands up. The pain is still there, throbbing in his skinned knee, but he has learned something more important than pain management. He has learned that boys endure, boys push through, boys do not seek comfort for minor hurts. He is encouraged to play roughly, to wrestle with other boys in the backyard, to climb trees and explore the woods at the edge of the neighborhood. These activities are seen as healthy, necessary, part of becoming a man. When he comes home with dirt on his clothes and a rip in his pants, your father chuckles. Boys will be boys. Your mother sighs, but she does not scold him. She simply mends the tear and washes the clothes, accepting that this is what boys do. You, on the other hand, are taught to be careful. You're given dolls that need feeding, dressing, tucking into bed. You're taught to cradle them gently, to speak to them in soft voices, to care for them as you will one day care for your own children. You're given a toy kitchen where you prepare imaginary meals, setting tiny plates on a tiny table, practicing the rituals your mother performs every day. You are learning, without anyone saying it directly, that your future is domestic, that your value lies in your ability to nurture, to create comfort, to maintain a home. When you ask to climb the tree your brother is scaling, your mother shakes her head. That is not for little girls. You might fall and hurt yourself. The implication is that you are more fragile, more in need of protection, less capable of handling the risks that your brother is encouraged to take. You are steered toward quieter activities, colouring books, jump rope, playing house with the neighbour girls. These are appropriate. These are safe. These are what girls do. Your brother is taught to be loud when necessary, to speak up, to assert himself. Your father tells him, stand up for yourself. Do not let anyone push you around. When he gets into a scuffle at school, defending himself against a bully, your father is proud. That is my boy. Your mother worries, but even she understands that this is part of learning to be a man in a world that respects strength. You're taught the opposite. You're taught to be polite, to defer, to avoid conflict. When another girl is unkind to you at school, your mother says, just ignore her. Be the bigger person. You're not taught to fight back. You're taught to endure quietly, to rise above, to handle cruelty with grace. Assertiveness in a girl is not admired. It is seen as aggressive, unladylike, a sign that she has not been properly raised. Chores are divided along these same lines. Your brother mows the lawn, takes out the trash, helps your father with repairs. He learns to use tools, to fix things, to handle tasks that require physical strength or mechanical understanding. You help your mother in the kitchen, learning to cook, to clean, to iron. You set the table, wash the dishes, dust the furniture. You're being trained for a life of domestic labour just as your brother is, being trained for a life of providing and leading. These lessons are reinforced everywhere. At school, boys take shop class while girls take home economics. At church, boys serve as altar assistants while girls help in the nursery. Even in play, the segregation is clear. Boys play baseball in the vacant lot. Girls play with dolls on the porch. The message is constant, consistent, and unquestioned. You are different. Your paths are different. And those differences are not just preferences. They are destinies. The telephone hanging on your kitchen wall is not a toy or an entertainment device. It is a tool for practical communication, and it is used sparingly, respectfully, and always with awareness that someone else might need the line. Calls are kept brief, news is delivered efficiently, gossip, if it must be shared, is whispered quickly and never allowed to stretch into long meandering conversations that tie up the line for hours. Teenagers are especially monitored. Your daughter is permitted one phone call per evening, no longer than 10 minutes, and only after her homework is complete and her chores are done. The telephone itself is a heavy, substantial object, mounted firmly to the wall beside the kitchen doorway, where it can be reached easily but does not interfere with meal preparation. The handset is black, smooth, cool to the touch. The rotary dial clicks decisively as you turn it, each number requiring a full rotation back to the starting position before you can dial the next. There is no speed, no convenience, no way to rush the process. Making a call requires patience, deliberation, and a clear sense of purpose. Your mother keeps a list of important numbers written on a small pad of paper tucked into a drawer beneath the phone. The doctor, the pharmacy, your father's office, your grandmother's house. These are the numbers that might be needed in an emergency, and they are kept accessible, ready. But emergencies are rare. Most calls are outgoing, brief, check-ins with relatives, quick confirmations of plans, efficient exchanges of information. When the phone rings, your mother answers on the second ring, never the first, which would seem too eager, and never later than the third, which would seem neglectful. She answers with a clear, pleasant greeting. Thompson Residence. If the call is for your father, she takes a message, writing it carefully on the notepad, ensuring that every detail is accurate. If the call is for you or your sibling, she evaluates whether it is worth interrupting whatever you are doing. Usually it is not. She takes a message and delivers it later after dinner, when the household has settled into evening routines. Your sister, now old enough to receive calls from friends, is given strict guidelines. 10 minutes. No exceptions. Your mother sets the kitchen timer when the call begins, and when it rings, your sister is expected to say goodbye immediately, politely, without argument. The rule is not punitive, it is practical. Other people might need to reach your family. Other families might need to use the line. To monopolize the telephone is to be inconsiderate, selfish, the kind of person who places their own desires above the needs of the community. Long-distance calls are a special category, expensive and therefore used only for significant occasions. When your grandmother calls from 3 states away, the conversation is warm but brief, everyone taking a turn to say hello, to share quick updates, to express love before the cost becomes prohibitive. Your mother keeps an eye on the clock, gently steering the conversation toward its conclusion before the bill becomes unreasonable. Long distance is for birthdays, holidays, emergencies. It is not for casual chat. Party lines are still common in some neighbourhoods, shared telephone lines where multiple households can pick up and hear each other's conversations. In those situations, telephone etiquette becomes even more critical. You do not eavesdrop, even though you can. You do not stay on the line when it's clear someone else needs to make a call. You wait your turn, respecting the shared resource, understanding that the telephone is a privilege, not a right. When your father calls from work to let your mother know he will be late, the conversation lasts less than a minute. I will be home by 7. The roast should be fine, she acknowledges, hangs up, adjusts dinner accordingly. Efficiency, respect for time, an understanding that the telephone is a tool, not companion, and that real communication happens face-to-face, across the dinner table, in the quiet moments when the day is done and the house is still. Once a week, every household on your block participates in the same choreographed ritual. The metal trash cans are rolled to the curb the night before, lids secured tightly, handles facing the street in neat uniformity. In the morning, the garbage truck rumbles down the street and the collectors work with efficient speed, hoisting each can, dumping its contents, and setting it back down with a metallic clang. By noon, every can has been retrieved, washed if necessary, and returned to its proper place behind the house or in the garage. To leave your trash can at the curb past lunchtime is to announce to the entire neighbourhood that you're either lazy or disorganised. The evening before trash day, you see them. One by one, the metal cans appear at the edge of every driveway, lined up like sentries guarding the street. They are dented from years of use, scratched, functional rather than beautiful, but each one is wiped clean on the outside, free of drips or smears. The lids fit snugly, preventing animals from rummaging through the contents overnight, preventing odours from drifting into the warm evening air. Your father is the one who handles this task. After dinner, as the light fades, he lifts the can by its handles and wheels it down the driveway, positioning it carefully at the curb, handle facing outward so the collectors can grab it easily. He checks the lid one more time, ensuring it is secure, and then returns to the house. This is his responsibility, one of the small but essential tasks that mark him as a functioning member of the household and the community. In the morning you wake to the distant rumble of the garbage truck still several houses away, working its way methodically down the block. The sound grows louder, closer, the grinding of gears, the hydraulic hiss, the bang of metal cans being lifted and emptied. You hear the voices of the collectors, calling to each other, coordinating their movements, working quickly because they have a dozen more streets to cover before the day is done. By the time you leave for school, the truck has passed. The cans sit empty at the curb, lids slightly askew from being replaced hastily. Some have tipped over in the process, lying on their sides like exhausted soldiers. Your father, before he leaves for work, walks out and retrieves your family's can, setting it upright, carrying it back up the driveway, returning it to its place beside the garage. He does this without being reminded, without fanfare. It is simply what is done. The women of the neighbourhood keep an eye on the cans throughout the morning. They glance out their kitchen windows as they wash breakfast dishes, noting which cans have been retrieved and which are still sitting at the curb. By noon, most have been returned. By early afternoon, only one or two remain, and those stragglers become a topic of quiet concern. Is everything all right over there? Perhaps someone is ill. Perhaps they are travelling. Perhaps they're simply careless, and that carelessness is noted, filed away, added to the growing list of small observations that shape a family's reputation. The trash cans themselves are maintained with care. Once a month your father hoses them out, spraying away any residue that has accumulated at the bottom, letting them dry in the sun before returning them to service. A foul-smelling trash can is a source of shame, a sign that basic hygiene is not being maintained, and your father would no more allow that than he would allow the lawn to go uncut, or the car to remain unwashed. Trash day is not glamorous. It is not discussed at dinner parties or mentioned in polite conversation, but it is one of the many small rituals that bind the neighbourhood together, a shared responsibility that reinforces the idea that everyone here is pulling their weight, contributing to the order and cleanliness of the community. To participate correctly is to be a good neighbour. To fail, even in this small way, is to signal that perhaps you do not belong. Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, the 4th of July, these holidays in 1955 are less about personal joy and more about public demonstration. Your family gathers not because everyone particularly wants to, but because this is what families do. Your mother spends days preparing elaborate meals, not because she loves cooking for 12 people, but because a proper holiday table reflects well on the household. Decorations are put up on schedule, taken down promptly, stored carefully for next year. Photographs are posed, smiles are held, and everyone understands that the goal is not happiness, but the appearance of happiness, which, in the suburbs, is often considered just as valuable. Thanksgiving preparation begins a week in advance. Your mother plans the menu with the precision of a military operation, lists written and rewritten, grocery shopping completed in stages so that nothing spoils before the day arrives. She polishes the good silver, washes the fine china that lives in the cabinet and only emerges for holidays, irons the tablecloth until it lies flat and crisp. The house is cleaned thoroughly, every room, not just the ones guests will see, because the possibility that someone might wander into a bedroom or open a closet requires that everything be perfect. On Thanksgiving morning, the kitchen becomes her domain, off limits to everyone except for brief, approved visits. The turkey roasts for hours, filling the house with a smell that is supposed to evoke comfort, but mostly evokes stress as she bastes, checks, worries about whether it will be dry. Side dishes are prepared in careful sequence, timed so that everything finishes simultaneously, a feat of coordination that requires focus and produces inevitably a certain level of tension that hums beneath the surface of the day. The family arrives in the early afternoon. Aunts, uncles, grandparents, cousins, everyone dressed in their holiday best, everyone carrying a covered dish or a pie, everyone greeting each other with hugs and exclamations that sound warm but feel rehearsed. The children are sent outside to play, or upstairs to stay out of the way. The men gather in the living room, drinks in hand, talking about work and sports and the state of the world. The women cluster in the kitchen, helping your mother with last-minute preparations, offering compliments on the turkey, the decorations, the way she's managed to make everything look so effortless when they all know it is anything but. When the meal is finally served, everyone takes their assigned seats, the same seats they occupy every year, and your father says grace. The prayer is brief, traditional, thanking God for the food, the family, the blessings of the year. Everyone murmurs, Amen. And then the serving begins, platters passed clockwise around the table, everyone taking polite portions, commenting on how wonderful everything looks. The meal itself is consumed with forced enthusiasm. The turkey is praised even if it is slightly dry. The stuffing is declared the best ever, even though it tastes the same as last year. Everyone eats more than they want because not finishing would suggest the food is not good, and that suggestion would hurt your mother who's worked so hard. Conversation is pleasant, neutral, steered carefully away from politics, religion, money, or any topic that might cause friction. After the meal, the women clear the table while the men retire to the living room. This division is automatic, unquestioned. The children, full and restless, are released to play again, their shouts drifting in through the windows as the adults settle into the long, sluggish afternoon. Pies are served eventually, coffee poured, and everyone lingers, not because they are enjoying themselves, but because leaving too soon would seem rude. Photographs are taken before anyone departs. The family arranged on the sofa, children in front, adults standing behind, everyone smiling on command. The camera flashes. Everyone holds their smiles a moment longer just in case. These photos will be placed in albums, evidence that the holiday happened, that the family gathered, that everything was as it should be. By evening, the guests have gone. Your mother stands in the kitchen surrounded by dirty dishes, exhausted, relieved that it is over. The holiday has been performed successfully. The family has fulfilled its obligations, and next year they will do it all again, because this is what families do, whether they enjoy it or not. If someone in your neighborhood is struggling, if a mother is overwhelmed, if a father is drinking too much, if a teenager is quietly falling apart, no one speaks of it. Not openly, not honestly. Instead, people offer vague euphemisms. She's been tired lately. He's been under a lot of stress at work. The boy is just going through a phase. To name the problem directly, to suggest therapy or medication, or even honest conversation, is to violate one of the deepest unspoken rules of suburban life. You handle your struggles privately, quietly, and with as little disruption to the social order as possible. Mrs. Patterson, 3 houses down, has not been herself lately. You notice it in small ways. She no longer tends her garden. With the same care, the roses are drooping. The flower beds are choked with weeds. She appears at the mailbox in the late afternoon, still wearing her bathrobe, her hair uncombed, her face pale and drawn. She used to wave when she saw you. Now she hurries back inside, eyes down, shoulders hunched. Your mother notices too. She mentions it to your father in a low voice, after you children have gone to bed. I'm worried about Helen. She doesn't seem well. Your father nods, uncomfortable with the topic. Perhaps she's just tired, new baby and all. Your mother accepts this explanation, even though the baby is nearly a year old, and Helen looked fine until recently. But to push further, to suggest that something more serious might be wrong, would be to step into territory that feels dangerous, inappropriate, beyond the boundaries of what neighbours should discuss. When Mrs. Patterson stops attending church, the whispers grow a bit louder. Has anyone seen Helen? Is she all right? Should we check on her? But no one does. Not really. Your mother bakes a casserole and leaves it on the Pattersons' porch with a note. Thinking of you. Hope you're feeling better soon. It is the acceptable gesture, the one that expresses concern without demanding vulnerability, that offers help without requiring honesty. Mr. Taylor at the end of the block drinks. Everyone knows, though no one says it directly. You see the bottles in his trash can on collection day. See the way he staggers slightly when he retrieves his mail in the evening. See the tight, strained expression on his wife's face when she greets you at church. She never complains. She never asks for help. She simply carries on, maintaining the appearance of normalcy, pretending that everything is fine because to admit otherwise would be to shame her family, to expose their private struggles to public judgment. The teenagers suffer too, silently, invisibly. The girl 2 streets over who barely eats, whose clothes hang loose on her, shrinking frame whose eyes are dark and hollow. She's just watching her figure, people say. She wants to look nice for the school dance. No one mentions the word anorexia. No one suggests that perhaps she needs help beyond encouragement to eat more. The boy who spends all his time alone in his room, who no longer plays with the other children, who stares blankly when spoken to. He's shy, people say. He's going through an awkward phase. He will grow out of it. No one considers that he might be depressed, that he might need more than time and patience, that his withdrawal might be a cry for help that no one is trained to hear. Mental health in 1955 is not a topic for polite conversation. It is shameful, frightening, associated with asylums and institutions and treatments that are whispered about in horrified tones. To admit that someone in your family is struggling mentally is to admit failure, weakness, a flaw in the family structure that cannot be fixed with hard work and positive thinking. So people suffer in silence, they endure, they pretend, and their neighbours, uncomfortable and unsure, offer casseroles and euphemisms and turn away, relieved that it is not their family, not their problem, not their responsibility to solve. When your father arrives home from work, the household shifts to accommodate him. Your mother has already prepared herself, lipstick refreshed, hair smoothed, apron removed. Dinner is nearly ready, timed perfectly to his arrival. The children have been instructed to greet him politely and then give him space to unwind. The television is his to control. The most comfortable chair in the living room is his by default. If he wants silence, the house becomes silent. If he wants conversation, everyone engages pleasantly. This is not discussed or negotiated. It is simply understood that a man who works hard all day deserves to come home to a peaceful, organised household where his needs are anticipated and met without him having to ask. Your mother watches the clock as 6 o'clock approaches. She glances out the window, listening for the sound of his car in the driveway. When she hears it, she makes a final check of her appearance in the hallway mirror, smoothing any stray hairs, pressing her lips together to distribute the lipstick evenly. She moves to the living room, positioning herself where she can greet him the moment he walks through the door. He enters, briefcase in hand, hat slightly crooked from the drive, his face showing the weariness of a full day at the office. She takes his hat, his briefcase, offering him a soft smile and a gentle greeting. "How was your day?" He answers briefly, vaguely, already loosening his tie as he moves toward his chair. She does not press for details. She does not burden him with questions. She simply lets him settle, lets him transition from the world of work to the sanctuary of home. "You and your siblings have been warned. Daddy is almost home. Make sure your toys are put away. Go wash your hands. Be ready to say hello nicely and then leave him alone unless he asks you to stay." You understand these instructions completely. You have learned through experience that the period immediately after your father's arrival is delicate, requiring careful navigation. Too much noise, too much energy, too many demands, and his mood can shift, his patience can thin, and the evening becomes tense in ways that affect everyone. So you greet him politely. "Hello, Daddy. How was work?" He pats your head, offers a tired smile, says something brief and pleasant. Then you retreat, going to your room or outside to play, giving him the space he needs. Your mother has already poured him a drink, something simple and cold, and she hands it to him as he settles into his chair. He accepts it with a murmur of thanks, takes a long sip, and exhales slowly. The television is turned on, tuned to whatever program he prefers. The news, usually, or a sports broadcast. Your mother does not suggest changing the channel. She does not ask if perhaps the children might watch something. The television during these evening hours belongs to him. If you want to watch a program, you ask permission first, and you accept his decision without complaint. More often than not, he is too tired to accommodate requests, and you simply go without. Dinner is announced at exactly the right moment, not too soon, not too late. Your mother has calibrated this timing perfectly over years of practice. She knows how long he needs to unwind, how many sips of his drink signal readiness for the meal. She calls everyone to the table, and the family gathers, your father taking his seat at the head, everyone else arranging themselves around him. During the meal, conversation is shaped around his presence. If he wants to talk, everyone listens. If he is quiet, everyone respects the silence. Your mother occasionally offers gentle topics, something pleasant from her day, a small anecdote about the children, a question about his work that he can answer as briefly or thoroughly as he wishes. She reads his mood expertly, adjusting her approach to match his energy level. After dinner, he returns to his chair while your mother and you children clear the table. He reads the newspaper, watches more television, or simply sits in quiet contemplation. Your mother brings him coffee, offers him dessert, ensures that his evening is as restful as possible. She does not ask him to help with dishes, to put the children to bed, to assist with any of the tasks that fill her evening. His day is done. Hers continues. This arrangement is not seen as unfair. It is seen as natural, appropriate, the proper order of a well-run household. He provides for the family, works outside the home, faces the pressures and stresses of the working world. She maintains the home, ensures his comfort, creates an environment where he can rest and recover so that he can return to work tomorrow and do it all again. His comfort is not selfishness. It is necessity. It is the foundation upon which everything else is built. The phrase is literal and metaphorical. Yes, you hang your laundry outside to dry, but you do so with care and discretion. Undergarments are hung on the inner lines, hidden behind sheets and towels. Stained or worn items are hung in the back where neighbours are less likely to see them. But more importantly, You do not share your family's private struggles, embarrassments, or conflicts with anyone outside your home. Marital tension stays behind closed doors. Financial difficulties are never mentioned. If your child misbehaves, you correct them privately and present a united, competent front to the world. To complain publicly about your life is to admit failure, and in the suburbs, failure is something you bear alone. On laundry day, your mother works methodically, sorting clothes into careful piles. Whites, colours, delicates, each category receiving its own treatment, its own wash cycle, its own level of attention. She feeds the sheets through the wringer, watching as the water is pressed out, the fabric emerging flattened and damp, ready to be hung. She carries the basket outside, clothespins secured in a bag hanging from her waist, and begins the process of hanging everything to dry. The clothesline stretches across the backyard, strung between two metal poles sunk deep into the ground. She works from the inside out, hanging the largest items first. Sheets go up first, creating a white barrier, a screen that shields the more private items from view. Then towels, then your father's work shirts, then the children's play clothes. Finally, tucked behind this protective wall of acceptable laundry, she hangs the undergarments, her slips, your father's undershirts, the children's underwear. These items are necessary, but they are not for public display. Anything stained, anything torn, anything that might suggest the family is struggling or careless, these items are either discarded or hung on the innermost line where they are least visible. A shirt with a frayed collar is positioned behind a pillowcase. A towel with a stubborn spot is hidden between two larger items. Your mother is aware that neighbours can see the laundry line from the kitchen windows, and she arranges everything with this awareness constantly in mind. What you hang on the line is a statement about your household, and that statement must be carefully managed. But the metaphorical laundry, the private struggles and tensions that every family carries, these must be guarded even more carefully. When your parents argue, they do so in whispers late at night, their voices low and controlled, never loud enough to wake the children or carry through the walls to the neighbours. When the argument is over, they emerge the next morning as if nothing happened, presenting a united front over breakfast, smiling, cooperative, giving no indication that anything is wrong. If money is tight, if your father's paycheck is not stretching as far as it should, if unexpected expenses have strained the budget, your mother does not mention it outside the house. She does not complain to neighbours, does not confide in friends at church, does not even hint at the calculations she's making, the meals she is stretching, the corners she is cutting to make everything work. To speak of financial difficulties is to suggest that your father is not providing adequately, and that suggestion is a betrayal, a violation of the unspoken agreement to protect his reputation and the family's standing. When your younger brother misbehaves at school, when he talks back to the teacher, or gets into a fight with another student, your parents handle it at home. The teacher calls, your mother listens, apologizes, assures her it will not happen again. Then she waits for your father to come home, tells him privately, and together they decide on the appropriate consequence. Your brother is punished, lectured, corrected. But outside the house, the incident is never mentioned. At church, at neighbourhood gatherings, your parents smile and speak of their children with pride. They do not confess the difficulties, do not seek advice, do not admit that sometimes raising children is harder than they expected. This silence extends to everything. If your marriage is strained, you smile and hold your husband's hand in public. If your child is struggling in school, you speak of their strengths and hide their weaknesses. If you're lonely, overwhelmed, exhausted, you put on lipstick and greet your neighbours with cheerful pleasantness. To do otherwise is to air your dirty laundry, to expose the messy, imperfect reality of your life to people who are not equipped to help, and who will certainly judge you for the exposure. The suburbs in 1955 operate on a collective agreement. Everyone has problems, everyone struggles. But we handle those struggles privately, with dignity, without burdening others or embarrassing ourselves. We present our best selves to the world, we maintain appearances, and we trust that behind every perfect lawn and every cheerful greeting, there is a family working just as hard as we are to keep everything together. When someone comes to your home, even for a brief visit, you transform into a gracious host. Your mother has already cleaned the house thoroughly, not just the visible areas, but every corner, every surface, every room the guest might conceivably enter. She has prepared refreshments, nothing too elaborate, but enough to demonstrate hospitality. Coffee is brewed fresh. Cookies are arranged on a plate. The good china comes out. Conversation is pleasant, light, carefully steered away from anything controversial or uncomfortable. The guest is offered the best seat, the most comfortable cushion, the fullest cup. And when they leave, your mother stands at the door waving until their car disappears from view. The preparation begins the moment your mother learns someone is coming. Even if the visit is casual, even if it is just a neighbour stopping by for a quick chat, she moves through the house with purpose. Surfaces are dusted, floors are swept, bathrooms are scrubbed. She checks the living room, fluffing pillows, adjusting the drapes, ensuring that everything looks welcoming and cared for. She checks the kitchen, wiping down counters, organising dish towels, making certain that if the guest happens to glance through the doorway, they will see only order and cleanliness. She bakes something simple, a batch of cookies or a coffee cake, filling the house with the warm, inviting smell of sugar and vanilla. These treats are arranged on a serving plate, one of the good ones. Not the everyday dishes, but something prettier, something that shows effort. She brews coffee in the percolator, the rich aroma mixing with the scent of baking, creating an atmosphere that feels comfortable, generous, prepared. When the guest arrives, your mother greets them at the door with a genuine smile, ushering them inside with warmth. "Please, come in. I am so glad you could stop by." She takes their coat if they are wearing one, offers them a seat, gestures toward the sofa or the armchair, whichever is more comfortable. She is already determined where the guest will sit, arranging the room so that they are positioned in the best light, with the best view, in the spot that feels most welcoming. She offers refreshments immediately. "May I get you some coffee? I have just baked cookies. Please, help yourself." She does not wait for them to ask. She anticipates their needs, bringing them what they might want before they have to request it. The coffee is poured into a cup from the good china set, served on a small matching saucer, accompanied by a cloth napkin folded neatly beside the plate of cookies. Everything is presented with care, with attention to detail, with the understanding that how you treat a guest reflects directly on your character. Conversation flows easily because your mother has mastered the art of pleasant small talk. She asks about the guest's family, their health, their recent activities. She listens attentively, making eye contact, nodding, responding with interest and warmth. She steers the conversation away from anything too heavy or controversial. If the guest mentions something troubling, she expresses sympathy but does not dwell on it, gently guiding the discussion back toward lighter topics. The goal is to make the guest feel comfortable, valued, at ease. If you or your siblings are home, you're instructed to greet the guest politely and then make yourself scarce. You say hello, you answer any questions directed at you with courtesy and brevity, and then you excuse yourself. Children who linger, who interrupt, who draw attention away from the guest, are a disruption. Your mother has taught you this, and you understand that adult time is not your time, that guests deserve your mother's full attention without the distraction of children demanding their own. When the visit comes to an end, your mother does not rush the guest out. She waits for them to signal their readiness to leave, and even then she prolongs the goodbye slightly, walking them to the door, thanking them for coming, expressing hope that they will visit again soon. She stands on the porch as they walk to their car, waving, smiling, remaining visible until they have driven away. This final gesture is important. It shows that their visit mattered, that they were valued, that the hospitality extended to them was genuine and heartfelt. After the guest has gone, your mother returns inside, clears the coffee cups, washes the good china by hand, puts everything away carefully. She's tired, perhaps, from the effort of maintaining that level of graciousness, but she is also satisfied. The visit went well. The guest felt welcomed. The household's reputation for hospitality has been reinforced, and that reputation, in the suburbs of 1955, is worth every moment of effort. If you're invited to someone's home for dinner, for a party, even for a casual afternoon visit, you bring something. A bottle of wine, a bouquet of flowers, a homemade dessert wrapped carefully in wax paper. To arrive empty-handed is to suggest thoughtlessness, a lack of breeding, an ignorance of basic social expectations. Your mother keeps a mental list of appropriate hostess gifts and a small stash of wrapped items in the hall closet just in case. She teaches you early that generosity, even token generosity, is the currency of suburban friendships, and she reminds you, always, that people remember who brought something and who did not. When an invitation arrives, your mother begins planning immediately. "What should I bring?" she asks your father over dinner, though she already has ideas forming in her mind. If it is a dinner party, she considers what the hostess might be serving and chooses something complimentary. A bottle of wine if the occasion is formal, a dessert if she knows the hostess well enough to contribute to the meal, flowers if she wants to keep things simple but thoughtful. If she decides on flowers, she does not simply grab a bouquet from the grocery store. She cuts them from her own garden when possible, selecting blooms that are fresh and vibrant, arranging them carefully in a vase she does not expect to get back. She wraps the stems in damp paper towels, covers them with waxed paper, ties the arrangement with a ribbon. The presentation matters. The effort shows. For a homemade dessert, she spends the afternoon baking. A pie, perhaps, or a batch of brownies, or a coffee cake that travels well and can be served easily. She uses her best ingredients, follows the recipe precisely, tastes as she goes to ensure everything is perfect. When it's finished, she wraps it carefully, protecting it from damage during the drive, labeling it if necessary so the hostess knows what it is. She tucks a handwritten recipe card inside if it is something special, a small extra gesture that transforms a simple gift into something more personal. Wine requires thought as well. Not too expensive, which would seem like showing off, but not too cheap, which would seem careless. She asks your father for advice, or she consults the man at the liquor store explaining the occasion, the hosts, the kind of impression she wants to make. He suggests something appropriate, and she purchases it, takes it home, wipes the bottle clean, considers whether it needs a ribbon or if the bottle itself is presentation enough. The morning of the visit, she checks and rechecks her preparations. The flowers are fresh, the dessert is wrapped securely, the wine is at room temperature. She rehearses the moment of arrival in her mind, imagining herself handing over the gift with a warm smile, saying something gracious but not overly effusive. "This is just a little something. I hope you enjoy it." The words must sound natural, spontaneous, even though they have been carefully chosen. When you arrive at the host's home, your mother does not hand over the gift immediately at the door. She waits until she's inside, until coats have been taken and greetings exchanged, until the initial flurry of arrival has settled. Then she presents the gift, holding it out with both hands, offering it with a smile. The hostess accepts it with thanks, with compliments, with the same gracious warmth, How thoughtful. You really should not have. But of course you should have. That is the expectation. That is the rule. Your mother has taught you this ritual as well. When you're invited to a birthday party, you do not arrive without a gift. When you visit a friend's house, you bring a small token, something your mother has helped you choose, perhaps a book or a toy or a homemade card. You learn early that arriving empty-handed is rude, that thoughtfulness must be demonstrated, that relationships are built on these small exchanges of generosity. The stash in the hall closet exists for emergencies, for last-minute invitations, for moments when there is no time to bake or shop. Your mother keeps a few items there, wrapped generically, ready to be grabbed on the way out the door. A box of chocolates, a set of dish towels, a scented candle. These are not her first choice, but they are better than nothing, and nothing is never an option. Because in the suburbs, your reputation is built on 1,000 small gestures, and arriving with a gift is one of the simplest and most important. It shows you were raised well. It shows you understand the rules. It shows you value the relationship enough to make an effort. And that effort, however small, is always remembered. At the heart of every invisible rule, every unspoken expectation, every social ritual in 1950s suburban America is a single idea. Conformity is not oppression, it is kindness. When you mow your lawn, when you serve dinner on time, when you dress properly and speak politely and follow the same rhythms as everyone else on your block, you're not surrendering your individuality. You're contributing to something larger than yourself. You're helping to create a stable, predictable, peaceful community where everyone knows what to expect and no one has to worry about chaos disrupting their carefully ordered lives. To conform is to care. To follow the rules is to show respect. And in 1955, that respect is the invisible glue holding everything together. The suburbs are designed around this principle. Every house looks similar, not because people lack imagination, but because similarity creates harmony. Every lawn is maintained to the same standard, not because anyone particularly enjoys mowing, but because collective effort produces collective beauty. Every family follows the same schedule, eats dinner at the same time, attends the same church, raises their children according to the same values because this synchronization creates a community that functions smoothly, where no one stands out, where no one disrupts, where everyone can trust that their neighbors are doing their part. When you conform, you are telling your neighbors that you understand the social contract, that you respect their needs and expectations, that you are willing to put the community's well-being above your own personal desires. You are signaling that you are reliable, predictable, safe. You are someone who can be counted on to maintain standards, to uphold values, to contribute to the collective peace. This is why deviation is met with such concern. When someone paints their front door an unusual colour, when someone serves dinner at 7 instead of 6, when someone skips church or lets their lawn grow too long, or raises their children in ways that differ from the norm, it is not seen as harmless personal choice. It is seen as a threat to the order everyone else is working so hard to maintain. It raises questions. If they cannot follow these simple rules, what other rules might they break? If they do not care about appearances, what does that say about their character? If they prioritize their own preferences over community standards, can they be trusted? And so conformity is enforced gently, through observation and judgment, through whispered conversations and subtle social pressure. No one knocks on your door to tell you directly that your behavior is unacceptable. Instead, invitations slow down. Conversations become more formal. You're included less, noticed less, gradually excluded from the invisible networks of support and friendship that make suburban life bearable. You feel the shift without anyone having to explain it. And you understand, eventually, that fitting in is not optional. It is the price of belonging. Your mother understands this instinctively. She has internalized every rule, every expectation, every tiny gesture that signals conformity. She mows the lawn on schedule. She serves dinner at 6. She dresses properly even to collect the mail. She attends church every Sunday, volunteers for the appropriate committees, sends thank you notes within 3 days, keeps her kitchen spotless, her children well behaved, her marriage private. She does all of this not because she is weak or unimaginative, but because she understands that her family's place in the community depends on it. And she teaches you the same. She teaches you to sit quietly, to speak politely, to follow instructions without argument. She teaches you that standing out is dangerous, that being different invites scrutiny, that the safest path is the one everyone else is walking. She teaches you that individuality is fine within certain boundaries, but those boundaries are narrow, and stepping outside them has consequences. This is not cruelty. This is not control for its own sake. This is survival. This is the recognition that in a world full of uncertainty, conformity creates stability. When everyone follows the same rules, life becomes predictable. And predictability in 1955 is the highest form of comfort. It means you know what to expect. It means you can plan. It means you can trust that tomorrow will look much like today, and that your place in the community is secure so long as you continue to do what is expected of you. So you conform. You mow your lawn. You serve dinner on time. You dress properly and speak politely and smile at your neighbours and never ever air your dirty laundry. You do all of this because everyone else is doing it, because the alternative is isolation, because fitting in is not just about comfort, it is about belonging. And in the suburbs, belonging is everything. Your family's automobile is not simply a vehicle that moves you from one place to another. It is a carefully chosen statement about your father's success, your family's values, and your position within the neighborhood hierarchy. The make, the model, the year, the condition, all of these factors are observed, discussed, and quietly judged by everyone who sees you drive past. A new car suggests prosperity and forward momentum. A well-maintained older car suggests prudence and good character. A dirty, dented, or outdated vehicle suggests struggle, and struggle in the suburbs is something you're expected to hide. When your father decides it is time to purchase a new car, the decision is not made lightly or quickly. He researches for weeks, visiting dealerships on Saturday mornings, collecting brochures, comparing prices and features. He discusses the options with your mother in the evenings, though the final decision will be his. She offers opinions carefully, framing them as questions rather than demands. Do you think the blue would be nice? Would the larger model be more practical for our family? He listens, considers, and ultimately chooses based on what he believes will reflect best on the household. The car must be American. To purchase a foreign vehicle in 1955 is to suggest disloyalty, a lack of patriotism, a failure to support the economy that supports you. Your father would no more buy a German or Japanese car than he would fly a foreign flag in his yard. The choices are clear and limited. Ford, Chevrolet, Plymouth, Buick, Chrysler. Each brand carries its own implications, its own social meaning, and your father weighs these implications as carefully as he weighs the mechanical specifications. A Cadillac would be too showy, suggesting wealth that borders on boastfulness. A basic Chevrolet would be practical, but might suggest your father is not advancing in his career as quickly as he should. He settles, usually somewhere in the comfortable middle, a Ford or a Plymouth, something respectable and solid, something that says we're doing well without saying we're doing better than you. The colour matters as well. Black is dignified and traditional. Dark blue or green are acceptable, safe choices. White is clean and modern but requires constant maintenance to stay presentable. Red is too flashy, too attention-seeking, too suggestive of a personality that does not understand restraint. Your father chooses a colour that will age well, that will not show dirt too quickly, that will blend harmoniously with the other cars parked along the street during church services or neighbourhood gatherings. Once the car is purchased, it becomes a member of the family, treated with care and respect. Your father washes it every Saturday, as much a part of the weekend routine as mowing the lawn. He waxes it monthly, buffing the paint until it gleams, protecting the finish from the elements. The interior is vacuumed regularly, the seats kept free of crumbs and stains, the dashboard dusted and polished. To let the car deteriorate is to let standards slip, and standards, once they begin to slip, are difficult to restore. The car is parked in the garage overnight, protected from weather and from the eyes of anyone who might judge its condition in the vulnerable hours of darkness. During the day it sits in the driveway, visible to the street, a symbol of your family's participation in the American dream. Neighbours notice when someone gets a new car. They comment on it, compliment it, compare it quietly to their own vehicles. The unspoken competition continues, each family trying to maintain or slightly exceed the standard without appearing to care too much about material possessions. You and your siblings are taught to treat the car with reverence. You do not eat or drink inside it. You do not slam the doors. You do not leave your belongings scattered across the back seat. The car is not a playroom or a storage unit. It is transportation, yes, but it is also a representation of your family's place in the world, and you're expected to respect that representation. When your family drives through the neighbourhood, your father sits tall behind the wheel, your mother beside him with her hands folded in her lap, you children arranged neatly in the back seat. You're a moving portrait of suburban success, a family that has achieved stability and comfort, a family that belongs. And the car, clean and well-maintained and perfectly chosen, is the frame around that portrait, telling everyone who sees you exactly what they need to know. Your mother is responsible for every penny spent on groceries, clothing, household supplies and incidentals, yet she does not earn the money and does not have final say over how it is allocated. Each week your father gives her a set amount of cash, the household allowance, and she's expected to stretch it across every need the family has until the next allowance arrives. She keeps meticulous records in a small notebook, tracking every purchase, every expense, every penny saved or spent. At the end of the month, she presents this accounting to your father, proving that she has been responsible, frugal and careful with the money he has entrusted to her. The allowance is handed over on Friday evening, after your father has cashed his paycheck. He counts out the bills carefully, folding them once before passing them to your mother. This is the same amount every week, adjusted only when your father receives a raise or when inflation makes the current amount insufficient. Your mother accepts the money with a quiet thank you, tucks it into her purse, and immediately begins calculating how it will be distributed across the coming days. Saturday morning, she goes to the grocery store with her list already prepared, every item written down in order of the store's layout so that she can move through efficiently without backtracking or impulse purchases. She has clipped coupons from the newspaper, studied the weekly sales flyer, planned meals around what is least expensive and most practical. She compares prices carefully, choosing the store brand over the name. Brand when the quality is comparable, selecting produce that is fresh but not so perfect that it commands a premium price. At the register, she watches the total climb with each item scanned, mentally calculating, ensuring that she has not exceeded her budget. She pays in cash, counting out the exact bills, accepting her change and tucking it carefully back into her purse. Every penny counts. Every penny is accounted for. At home, she records the total in her notebook, noting the date, the amount spent, the items purchased. This is not optional. This is her responsibility. When unexpected expenses arise, a torn school uniform that needs replacing, a household item that breaks and must be repaired, your mother must decide whether she can absorb the cost within the existing budget or whether she must approach your father and ask for additional money. She does not make this request lightly. To ask for more money is to suggest that the allowance he provides is insufficient, or worse, that she has not managed it wisely. So she stretches. She finds ways to make do. She postpones purchases, mends instead of replacing, serves cheaper meals for the rest of the week to compensate. Your father reviews her accounting at the end of each month. He sits at the kitchen table with her notebook open in front of him, reading through the entries, checking her math, asking occasional questions. Why was the grocery bill higher this week? What was this expense for? She answers calmly, explaining, justifying, showing him that every purchase was necessary and considered. If he is satisfied, he nods, closes the notebook, tells her she has done well. If he finds something questionable, if he believes she's been wasteful or careless, he says so, and she accepts the criticism quietly, promising to be more careful next time. She does not have her own bank account. She does not write checks. She does not make financial decisions beyond the daily practical ones of household management. If she wants to purchase something for herself, something that is not strictly necessary, she must ask your father's permission and accept his decision without argument. A new dress, a bottle of perfume, a magazine subscription. These are luxuries that require his approval because they come from his earnings, and his earnings are his to distribute as he sees fit. This arrangement is not seen as unfair or controlling. It is seen as practical, appropriate, the natural division of financial responsibility. He earns the money through his labour outside the home. She manages the money through her labour inside the home. He maintains control of the larger financial picture, the savings, the investments, the major purchases. She handles the daily details, the small decisions that keep the household running smoothly. Together, they form a functioning economic unit, each playing their assigned role, each contributing to the family's financial stability in the way that society expects and approves. Your mother takes pride in her ability to stretch the budget, to make ends meet, to provide for her family on the money she's given without complaint or request for more. It is a skill, a discipline, a measure of her competence as a wife and homemaker. And when she successfully navigates a particularly tight month, when she manages to save a little extra or accomplish something impressive within her limited means, she feels a quiet satisfaction, knowing that she has fulfilled her role well. When you misbehave in public, when you speak too loudly in church or run wild in the grocery store or show disrespect to an adult, the judgment does not fall only on you. It falls on your parents, on your household, on your family's reputation within the community. Your behaviour is seen as a direct reflection of the values being taught at home, the discipline being enforced, the kind of people your parents are. A well-behaved child suggests a well-run household. A difficult child suggests chaos, permissiveness, a failure of parental authority that will be noted, discussed and remembered. From the moment you can walk and talk, you're taught that your actions have consequences that extend far beyond yourself. When you're taken to church, to the grocery store, to a neighbour's house, to any public setting, you are representing your family. You're a small ambassador carrying your parents' reputation on your shoulders, and you're expected to behave accordingly. This is not framed as pressure, exactly, but as responsibility, as a natural extension of being part of a family, part of a community that observes and judges and remembers. Your mother prepares you before every outing. She crouches down to your level, looks you in the eye, and delivers the same quiet instructions you have heard dozens of times before. We're going to the store now. You will walk beside me, not run. You will use your indoor voice. You will not ask for things. You will say please and thank you to anyone who speaks to you. Do you understand? You nod. You understand. The consequences of forgetting are not worth risking. In public, she watches you constantly, her attention divided between the task at hand and your behaviour. If you begin to wander, she calls you back with a single word. Your name, spoken quietly but firmly. You return immediately. If you start to speak too loudly, she places a gentle hand on your shoulder, a silent reminder that you're being too noisy. If you reach for something you should not touch, her hand intercepts yours, redirecting you without a word. She manages you with minimal visible effort, but the effort is constant, exhausting, essential. When another adult speaks to you, you respond politely, clearly, respectfully. Yes, ma'am. No, sir. Thank you. You make eye contact. You do not fidget or look away. These small gestures are proof that you've been raised properly, that your parents have taught you manners, that your household operates according to the same rules everyone else respects. The adult smiles, nods approvingly, and later they may mention to your mother what a well-behaved child you are. She accepts the compliment graciously, but inside she feels relief. You have not embarrassed her. You have upheld the family's reputation. But when a child misbehaves, the response is swift and public. Not the punishment itself that comes later, at home, but the immediate correction. A sharp whisper, a firm grip on the arm, a swift removal from the situation. If your younger brother throws a tantrum in the grocery store, your mother does not negotiate or plead. She picks him up, abandons her shopping cart, and leaves immediately. Outside in the parking lot or the car, she addresses his behaviour with controlled anger, explaining in no uncertain terms that what he did was unacceptable, embarrassing, a reflection on the entire family. Later, at home, your father administers the real consequence, a serious talk, a restriction of privileges, sometimes a spanking depending on the severity of the infraction, and your father's beliefs about discipline. The punishment is not just for the misbehaviour itself, but for the embarrassment it caused, for the way it made the family look to others, for the judgment it invited. You do not just misbehave, you make us look bad. And making the family look bad is one of the gravest offences a child can commit. This constant awareness of being watched, of being judged, of representing something larger than yourself, shapes you in ways you will not fully understand until you are older. You learn to monitor yourself, to anticipate how your actions will be perceived, to choose the behaviour that will reflect best on your family. You learn that your individuality is less important than your conformity, that your desires are less important than your family's reputation, that you're not just yourself, but a piece of a larger whole that must be protected and maintained, and when you are, complimented for being well behaved. When an adult tells your mother what a credit you are to your family, you feel a complicated mixture of pride and relief. Pride that you have succeeded in your role. Relief that you have not failed in a way that would bring shame or judgment down on the people you love. You are a good child. And being a good child means, above all else, being a child who makes your family look good.